What's happening, people, and welcome back to In the End Zone UK. This is podcast number 8. Today, we will be looking at week 7 in the NFL, and it was a bit of a blowout week too. So we'll be covering all of the games, giving you the scores and the details into those, and really delving deep into the games where the teams got blown out. Before we get into that, and before we cover off a number of our returning segments, including Slap or Sign, I need to welcome back across the screen, Mr. Big Dave. Welcome back, Dave.
How are we doing? What's going on?
All good, thank you very much. I am ready to talk football. Did you enjoy this week of football madness?
Absolutely loved it. Big Giants win, loads of blowout games, loads of average teams getting beat. Seahawks. No, it was a great week of football. Loads of points on the board. Very few boring games, which is good. Makes it easier to sit there and watch it.
Indeed, and easier to talk about it, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So, as I mentioned, there were a number of blowout games this week, but we also had a number of teams on a bye again. So we had a few less games to watch, which means a few less games to cover. So the teams that were on a bye this week were the Buffalo Bills, the Cowboys were on a bye, which was much to Dave's delight. So the Dallas Cowboys were on a bye. We didn't have to sit and watch those again, week in, week out, winning games. The Jacksonville Jaguars were on a bye because they played in London last week. The LA Chargers, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Pittsburgh Steelers were on a bye. So the action wasn't quite the volume that we're used to, but we still got to see some great games, which we'll be covering in the On the Clock segment. But as Dave mentioned, there was some blowout wins in this week, which made a very entertaining week of football. A blowout is obviously when a team wins with an extraordinary margin, and some of them were actually quite surprising, weren't they, Dave?
Yeah. Some of the teams, Dom's second favourite team, obviously got their they've just not looked great this season. We'll move on. We'll go on to them a little bit later on. But no, yeah, there's some surprises in there, which I'm sure our avid listeners cannot wait for us to unpack for them.
Exactly. So the teams that were blown out this week, and the one that Dave was just alluding to, firstly, were the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Kansas City Chiefs, coming into the season, a hot favourite, they got blown out this week. Back doors blown clean off by the Tennessee Titans. Much again to Dave's delight, the Carolina Panthers got blown out by the New York Football Giants.
Yeah, they did.
The Ravens from Baltimore got blown out in a divisional, very, very entertaining match by the Cincinnati Bengals. The New York Jets got beat by the Patriots very, very, very heavily. And finally, the Chicago Bears. Oh, not even finally. There was another blowout. Excuse my French. The Bears lost to the Buccaneers, and the Texans got destroyed by the Cardinals. So that's the Chicago Bears being beat by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Houston Texans getting slapped by the Arizona Cardinals. So these 6 teams, Dave, combined for a total of 44 points. Those 6 teams scored 44 points against their opponent, and the other opponent scored 216 points against those teams. It was an absolute shit show.
Yeah, and the Cardinals-Texans game, that's the first time in the history of the NFL that a game has finished 31-5.
Oh, yeah, you're hitting us with some scoregami, are you, Dave? Scoregami.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though.
2 safeties this week as well. They don't happen
very often. Yeah. And the first time this week that a game didn't go to overtime as well. I'm pretty sure. So we had an interesting one, but if we just talk about a couple of those blowouts, I mean, some of the ones that were less expected, some would argue maybe that it was less expected for the Giants to blow anybody out, but here we are, and they did. So good on them. But the Chiefs, the Chiefs getting blown out by the Titans. Who saw that one coming?
Nobody, I bet. But I mean, there's no team in the league. Well, maybe so I'd say the Titans and the Browns are the 2 teams that you don't want to go down big to, because they'll just sap the clock by. They've got combined, the two best running backs probably, well, the two best running games in the NFL. So if you get down to them, and you give them the ball back, you punt the ball back to them, you're not going to see the ball again for sort of 6-7 minutes because they're just going to drain the life out of the clock. So yeah, the Chiefs didn't look like they didn't look like they came to play at all, and then Mahomes obviously got a bit of a knee to the face at the end. But I think he passed the concussion protocol, but we'll see if he plays this week.
Yeah, it's madness. I mean, the Titans beat the Chiefs 27-3. The Chiefs scored 3 points only in the third quarter. So, I mean, the Titans defense really isn't what their strong point is, right? And to hold the Chiefs to 3 points, it's never been done in the Mahomes era.
No, I think this and the Super Bowl are the only two games that Mahomes hasn't thrown a touchdown in his career. And I think it's only the second time that they've played a game and not led at any point while he's been there. So
that is an interesting stat. And how interesting is it that Patrick Mahomes didn't throw a touchdown in this game, yet the running back Derrick Henry did?
I mean, there's a
King Henry's doing everything he can to try and win MVP.
Well, he's in a good position for it, and he's got a passing touchdown now, which it was more Mahomes in that game.
Exactly. So. Do you think that, just a quick one, just on this one, do you think that the doors have totally fell off the Chiefs, or what's the crack with that? Is Mahomes in turmoil, or do you think still that they're okay, or do you think they're in real trouble now?
I think they're in trouble, but I mean, like if any team's built, I think we said it before when we were talking about who's in danger. I mean, the Chiefs are built to win games. I can't see them continuing this trend they're on now. There's 10 games left. If they win 10 games, they'll go 13-4, and then it looks like they've had an amazing season, you know. But at the minute, yeah, they're in trouble. They're in last place in their division.
Yeah, and then the other one, which also throws just another spanner into the works of the AFC, is the Ravens. So the Ravens, we've really been gleaming on them in the last few podcasts. They've had fantastic performances on defense, fantastic performances on offense through the ground, on the ground and through the air, and then they go and lose to their division rivals, the Bengals, and they lose quite considerably as well, 41-17. This is on the verge of, not necessarily being a blowout, but I think your Ravens team and you get 40 burger put on you, it's a blowout in my eyes.
Yeah, if your defense is conceding 41 points, that's a blowout. They just, I think it seems like the ideal defense planned to just stop Lamar Jackson running. He didn't get any of them. Well, I mean, he hit a few yards, but he's not. It wasn't like a performance where you think, yeah, Lamar Jackson killed that. He obviously didn't because he scored 17 points. I don't think anybody helped him out either with his receivers, but the Bengals were just putting points up. I think they put 28 points up in the second half. You know, they had a very very strong performance, and that's the reason they're now top of that division.
We'll come and talk about that game a little bit later. And yeah, then the other games that were blowouts were, the Patriots taking it to the Jets, which is no surprise because the Jets are garbage, and the Buccaneers beating the Bears, a bit of a revenge game this week, which we'll talk about later as well, because the Bears beat the Bucs last year, actually beat them quite extensively last year, so it was a bit of a revenge game for Tom Brady. And then I don't think anybody didn't expect the Cardinals to take the Houston Texans to score. So yeah, those games were also pretty interesting to see when you look at how most teams in the NFL now would assume to be competitive, but the Texans scored 5 points, the Cardinals scored 31, the Bears scored 3 points, the Buccaneers scored 38, and then the Jets scored 13 points, and they were kind of just nothing points, and the Patriots scored 54. I mean, a 50 burger. It's a bit embarrassing as a Jets team right now. Nothing's going well for them, is it?
No, they put it on them, and now the quarterback's injured, so
not in a good spot. And then your New York Giants holding the
Oof.
Panthers to 3 points whilst you score 25.
Plenty to talk about that.
How excited were you in that one, Dave? Did you get a tingly feeling in your pants?
A little bit, yeah. You know, it's as I was saying, it's the first time in a long time that we've blown somebody out. We blew the. I think in 2018 we put maybe 40 points on the Washington football team. But this in sort of the last 3 years, this is the only time we really had a blowout. All the other games have been pretty close, either losing pretty close or winning pretty close. So it's nice to watch a game where our defense completely smothered the Panthers. It's great to see.
Yeah, and it did look impressive, that defense. So, yeah, so congratulations to Dave. Fortunately, he can't say the same back to me, but we will get onto that in our On the Clock segment later. So we will move on to our ever-loved, ever-recurring slap or sign. Talk to me, Dave. Who are we warming our hands up for today? AFC, I want your first slap of the day. Who's it going to?
You're not going to like it, but it's going to Patrick Mahomes. He is getting a humongous slap from me. He's not playing. Everyone knows Mahomes is a top 3 quarterback in the league. There's no doubt about it. He's probably the most talented quarterback in the league. He can do everything. He can run for first downs if he needs to. He can make every throw and more. I mean, since he's come into the league, he's probably bought in 3 throws that we've never seen before. The sideways pass, the underarm pass, the no-look pass. These are things that maybe you'd seen once or twice. This guy does it 3 or 4 times a game. However, their record at the minute is not great. They're below 500 as a team. He leads the league in interceptions. He's thrown 9, the same as Zach Wilson. And he's also 15th in passer rating. He's clearly not the 15th best quarterback in the league, is he? He's having a stinker. He's got all his weapons. They spent loads of money bringing in people to shore up the offensive line because that's where they got destroyed in the Super Bowl. And it seems to have it's gone backwards. You know, so other people have figured out now that if you defend the deep ball, they're an ordinary team. You know, if you can stop Tyreek Hill going over the top, then what are they? They just dump off to Kelsey. But then if you're not needing to double team Tyreek Hill because you're leaving 2 safeties back, you can then double team Kelsey and just stop the underneath stuff. And it just seems to be working. I think the Bucs have given the people the blueprint to beat the Chiefs, and I hope that we adopt it this week because we're playing them. But yeah, slapping Mahomes.
Yeah, the Giants take on the Chiefs. No, good slap on Mahomes, that's for sure. I mean, one thing that you just touched upon there is that the whole taking away the deep threat, it also takes away that instant scoring ability, doesn't it? That time where the Chiefs don't need the ball for a long time, they'll score. You know, everyone's always been, thinking about that very, very similarly to this game. And I thought about it whilst we were watching the red zone in the playoffs last year. The Chiefs went down heavily to the Titans, didn't they? I think they were down by 20 points and they still came back and won because they just scored back to back. And that was it. It was just, okay, we're losing, but it doesn't really matter. Right now, it seems like we're losing and that instant score opportunity has been nullified. So you can't just get yourself back in games really quick. So you are right in that aspect. I think good coaching call there, Dave. I think it's you should probably be on the Chiefs defensive coordination at the moment. I think you'd be all right.
Sign me up.
Yeah. Okay. So AFC sign. Who are we talking? Who are we talking about? Who are you going to sign?
I am going to sign not 1 player, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5
my God, I'm in suspense.
So we're going to sign. We're going to sign the Cleveland Browns offensive line as a whole. Okay, so Nick Chubb's injured. Kareem Hunt's out. They bring in some absolute next level nobody. Wait for it. What's his name? I'll tell you in a second. But they bring in a running back that I can't find his. Okay, here we go. So Dearness Johnson is who they put in, and Dearness Johnson goes off for 146 rushing yards. So what that tells me is you can put any man, you could put a fridge with no wheels on, and he's still getting 100 yards behind that offensive line.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, and they've just looking through these here, my little notes here. So that offensive line is you can plug anybody in. So we say this about the 49ers, you can put anybody in the 49ers backfield and they're going to get 100 yards. Well, when you've got Nick Chubb, who's averaging 5.8 yards a carry, you've got Kareem Hunt, who's averaging 5.2 yards a carry. Nick Chubb's getting a ridiculous amount of yards after contact. And they've got 9 rushing touchdowns between them in 7 games. And they've not even played 7 games, they played 6 games. They're just, that offensive line's just, it's next level. And I think it's what I would kill for at the Giants. With Saquon Barkley there, it's just so if we'd have these big bruising youths who can just punch open holes that your running back's got, that he's got the ability to just get through. And then once Saquon's very much like Nick Chubb, but like a better version, if he could stay healthy. You know what I mean? He'd be leading the league in rushing. And I imagine Chubb would if he wasn't sharing snaps with Kareem Hunt. You know what I mean? He'd be up there with Derrick Henry. That's for sure.
He'd definitely be up there with Derrick Henry. And yeah, like you say, the offensive line is such a key element to any football game, isn't it? It's an underrated one that if you know football, you know how important it is. If you don't know football, you probably just think it's a bunch of fat blokes stood in a line doing not a lot.
Yeah.
But actually, it's such a demanding role, and it makes such a difference to teams. It can literally, like you say, transform putting me in the backfield and getting 100 yards versus putting me in the backfield and having my arms and legs torn from my torso.
Yeah, and without, they don't just keep the quarterback upright, like you say. They're pulling the linemen apart, the defensive linemen apart, so that you can just create them holes and get the blokes through it. I would kill for a decent O line, and hopefully that's what we're going to attack this year in the draft.
Nice, yeah, and I think you need to, just considering what's happened this year. So good stuff. So they're your AFC slap and signs. Moving on to your NFC. Who are you going to sign in the NFC?
Sign this week. I'm signing these guys.
All
right.
For the people listening,
Giants, for the people listening that can't see what I'm doing, I'm just touching my my Giants t-shirt and hat.
Oh, thank God you said t-shirt, Dave. I'm just touching my t-shirt. My t-shirt.
Yeah, so we're going to sign the Giants defense. The Giants defense before the year started, I was hopeful that they were going to be able to replicate what they did in the last half of last season, where they were a top 10 defense. They've been nothing short of absolute dog shit for the first 6 games. Against the Panthers last week, they turned up. They absolutely shut them down. They couldn't get anything going. They were bullying Sam Darnold that much that they sat him. They benched him and brought in their backup. James Bradbury had another pick. He's on that 3 for the year now. That we had, I think, 4 sacks. And he kept keeping them to that fewer amount of points that they had.
Well, yeah, they had 3 points in there, which is an amazing performance from a defense.
Yeah, we had a safety on them. They just played how I've expected them to play for the entire year, and I'm absolutely buzzing, and hopefully they can carry it forward to the Chiefs game, where hopefully we can grab a few more picks against Mahomes, who seems to be throwing at least one a game at the minute. So yeah, hopefully.
No, very good. Nice one, Giants. So the Giants are getting signed by the team of which he already owns them. So Some
I'm
would
just
say
keeping
that's a
him.
wasted pick. Some would say it's a solid pick.
I came very close to slapping him, if I'm honest with you, just because I'm that pissed off that's the level of performance that I expect week in, week out, not rock
Yeah,
up in week 7 and finally do something.
fair
Leads me
play.
very nicely
Fair
onto
play.
my slap. I am slapping DK Metcalf. You may be
Ooh,
looking at me
ouchies!
going,
You're gonna have to,
why?
you
Why
are
am I doing
gonna
this?
have to run extremely fast, my good man. You're probably gonna have to get on some sort of moped to get away from him.
Yeah, no, I'm not going away from him. I'm going straight at him with a
Oh
slap.
yeah.
We spoke about this before. Like, DK is a phenomenal specimen. He's 6'4", 230 pounds. He can run as fast as the fastest gazelle. But he is a douchebag. He's a little bit weird. He's a little bit like Dennis Rodman. He colours his hair
Mm,
green, and he's took to offending one of my favourite people to watch on TV, the Hall of Famer Shannon Sharp.
mm.
He was criticising him, and let me just say, and Shannon Sharp just ended it with, hopefully your resume will be as full as mine one day. Let me just tell you what DK would need to do to be as good as Shannon Sharp. He would
Yeah.
need
So
to
for the
be,
listeners out there, Shannon Sharp is a Hall of Fame tight end. So essentially, a glorified receiver, but he's a tight end. So he's not even a wide receiver in the same position as DK Metcalf, and he was one of the best to ever do it, arguably the best if he'd have played for the same amount of time as other tight ends.
yeah. So Shannon Sharp, okay, he was part of the Hall of Fame All 1990s team. He's a 3-time Super Bowl champion, 4-time All Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, and he's in the Hall of Fame. So 8 Pro Bowls in 12 years, pretty impressive.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and DK he's got the potential to be a great, do you know what I mean? Calvin Johnson-esque, just a monster of a receiver. I think he just needs to. He probably suffers from what most people do nowadays, and it's just they love the social media thing. He started doing some of the TikToks, which is the reason that we hate Juju and
Hmm.
who's the other one, Claypool.
Yeah, please.
You know,
Yeah,
Mahomes'
I hope
brother.
this. I hope that he stops that for his own sake, because that nothing good leads from those.
No, I just think like Shannon Sharp had multiple games of like 150 yards. He's had a 200. He's got the record for a tight end game where he's got 202 yards. The man's a specimen. I think if you're going after somebody, you need to make sure you're going after somebody with a little less street cred than a Hall of Famer that's got 3 Super Bowl rings.
No, I agree. I have to agree. So DK's catching a big slap then, Dave, is he?
He is big old slap. OL
Hmm.
slap.
Okay,
Oh,
big old slap. Nice.
right. Which leads us on very nicely to who from the AFC are you signing?
From the AFC this week, I am signing because after watching Geno Smith move the ball about as far as a newborn baby could move it down the pitch, I wanted to gouge my eyes out. We need a quarterback. And if I didn't have Russ and I could look at a plethora of quarterbacks and how they're performing right now, I would sign Joe Burrow in the AFC.
Okay.
Yep. So Joe Burrow, the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, I'd be signing him. I tell you what, I don't think at this point Joe Burrow is getting anywhere near enough credit because he is still technically a rookie quarterback. So he only played 10 games last year for the Bengals before he had a horrific leg injury. And when I say horrific, his leg turned into a fold-up chair basically, and got put away for the summer. And he came back from that. So not only has he come back from a horrific injury, he played 10 games last year. He's played 7 this year, I think, maybe 6. But he's essentially still a rookie quarterback because that's the amount of games you play as a rookie, right? You play 16 games. he is playing out of his absolute skin compared to any other rookie quarterback right now. And I know that he's had one more off season, and okay, he's not quite in the middle of his first. But when you're watching him, honestly, I think people are not giving him the credit. When you're watching him like he's a second or third year quarterback at the moment. He's making all the right moves. He looks comfortable in the pocket. He looks comfortable out the pocket. He's obviously got an amazing connection with Jamar Chase, who he used to play with anyway. But that's still not an excuse. You know, quarterbacks build amazing connections. He's finding other players. He's made a tight end. Is it Uzoma or
Yeah,
something like that? I
not going to try and
don't
say
know what his name
name.
is, but he's a tight end I've never heard of before this year, making him look like the new Travis Kelce. You know, he's feeding his running back, Joe Mixon. Basically, he's winning games, and he's just beat the Ravens, and he still looks like, you know, he can get a lot better. So from my perspective, he's in his second year. He's young, and he can sling a ball, and he can sling a ball without looking like he's on roller skates as well. He's not panicking. He's just making the right choices. So I would be signing Joe Burrow tomorrow. What an amazing potential that franchise has for the first time in I do not know how long, since old Gingy Dalton.
Yeah, no, he looks great. Okay, who are you going to slap?
This one's an easy one. I'm copying you. So I'm slapping Patrick Mahomes as well. As much as I like him, I was gonna interject, but I thought I'll leave you to it. Let you rant on the Mahomes. But my Mahomes is not looking like the Patrick Mahomes that I love. The reason why I love Patrick Mahomes is because to date he's played exciting, point scoring, unbelievable football, and we're not getting that from him. So, you know, I'm not saying I'm jumping out the club, but I am saying that the reason why I enjoy watching him because he's a highlight reel constantly, and realistically, over the course of this season, he's still been a highlight reel, but for turnovers, and it's not looking good, and he's clearly more capable. You know, playing the ball into shorter passes, stop trying to go deep, stop trying to make things happen. If it's not there, throw the ball away. You know, rush, get a few yards, and go again. So yeah, you said most of it anyway. So Patrick Mahomes is getting a slap. He can do better, and he needs to do better.
Yeah, agreed. These are two big old bitch slaps today. Not good for him.
No.
NFC, who are you gonna slap?
So my slap this week comes very close to home, and if I actually physically did this, I feel like I may end his life. So I probably shouldn't. I'm slapping Pete Carroll, head coach of the Seahawks. Pete the Meat. I mean, he is as old as God's dog, and a slap might just finish him off. But I feel like at the very least, he needs something, you know, just a tap round his old head to say, listen, buddy, the way you are playing, it's not 1970 anymore. Wake up. You can't run the ball on first down, second down, get 2 yards, 1 yard, and then try and expect a absolutely sack of shit quarterback to then throw you out of third and long every week. And that's what he expects. We don't have Russell Wilson in the backfield. He is injured. It is an absolute travesty for the Seahawks franchise whilst he's down. You have to find ways to win a game. And unfortunately, if the ways in which you think are going to win a game is to run the ball on first and second down, then you fucking go out and get Cam Newton, like I suggested 3 weeks ago, because he will get you the yards that you need, mixed with a semi-decent second running back, because our first one's injured as well. With a Geno Smith, he's built like a McDonald's straw. He gets absolutely snapped up every time he tries to go anywhere. He's been sacked more times than I don't know what, fumbled the ball more times than I don't know what. Pete needs to look at the team that's in front of him and change his approach. Period. The way that he like runs a defense is not working. Simples. We are one of the worst defenses in the NFL. If you are a head coach and your quarterback goes down, I understand it's not easy to win. But we have been in the last 3 games. We've lost them by field goals. 3 points without Russell Wilson. if we'd have won one of them, two of them, or even all three, I'm going on a rant and I'm talking about the Seahawks later. So fuck it. Pete the Meat, you need a slap because you're too old. Get off the pitch.
He is an old, crusty youth. I've got a feeling though, if you tried to slap him, your hand would get stuck either in his mouth because it's always open because he's chewing stuff, or you just slap the skin
or
clean off his face.
or in the gum.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd have some chewing gummy fingers, hubba bubba.
Okay.
So yeah, sorry about that, Pete. I love you. You've won the Super Bowls, but it's time to walk. Do not walk gently into that night, but he needs to.
Needs to be horrid. Give him a Zimmer
Yes.
frame. Right.
Yes.
And then who are you
And then,
going to sign?
yeah, so my sign is it's basically essentially just dependent on the performance of this week. I'd love him on the team anyway, as most players would, but in the NFC, I am signing Mike Evans this week. Yeah, 3 touchdowns for the Bucs, all passed to him via Tom Brady, the GOAT, who continually looks like the GOAT. He's doing everything that the GOAT or an MVP candidate would want to do right now. But Mike Evans, I mean, what a fantastic target to have amongst the number of amazing receivers that you've got on your team. But I think in this game specifically that they just played, where they beat the back doors off the Bears, Mike Evans he was either open because he can run really, really precise routes for how tall, he's lanky, he's tall, but he can still run great routes. So he's either open because he's a good route runner, or he's not open, and you may as well throw it to him anyway because he's like 6'5" or 6'4" and can jump as high as most basketball players. You just throw it up, let him catch it. And, he had 3 touchdowns this week, and he just looks like a phenomenal player. In the hands of Tom Brady, there's no stopping him. There's no stopping him. Every week it seems to be, it goes to Godwin will have a week, Evans will have a week, Antonio Brown will have a week, Gronk will have a week when he's healthy. And it was Mike Evans' turn this week. I feel like they play spin the bottle before the game, and whoever it lands on, it's like, here you go, mate. This one's yours today. 3 touchdowns, pal. Nice one. And Mike Evans is an elite receiver anyway. So on any team he'd thrive, but in this setup he's obviously built, and he does have these types of ups and down weeks, and he had it even under famous Jameis Winston. Some days he'd go silent, wouldn't catch a ball, or he'd have 2 catches for 20 yards, and then the very next week he'd have 150 for 3 touchdowns. He's a hot and cold fantasy player, that's for sure. You want him in your team, but some weeks it's worth a lot more than others. So I'm taking Mike Evans.
Yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches they've got. And like you say, who do you cover? Do you cover one of their all the wide receivers and number ones? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you cover?
Yeah.
Oh no, you're going to cover them. That's fine. Throw it to Gronk. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. You cover him. I'll just pass it to Leonard Fournette out the backfield.
Yeah. It's horrible.
Gronk's covered. Okay. OJ Howard, did you open? No. Okay. What about Cameron Brate?
Yeah, even the tight ends are another level. So, that's what I'm taking anyway. And that brings us to the end of Slap or Sign. So, nice one, Dave. At least we agreed on one this week. I think that's only happened once so far, but Patrick catches the double slap, and we move swiftly onto our weekly segment, On the Clock. So on the clock, we are going to cover some of the more exciting games of the week, and I'll be giving you the box scores for some of the games that were not necessarily as worth watching as the ones we're going to cover. So first off, the one I have in front of me at the moment was an interesting match in the AFC. It went the way that it was expected, but really wasn't a thriller in Manila, so to speak. And this was the Denver Broncos taking on the Cleveland Browns. This one finished 14 to the Denver Broncos and 17 to the Cleveland Browns. There wasn't too much to talk about in this game, so we're probably going to skip through it. Only a few things to mention were that the Browns managed to win this one being very, very banged up. and they didn't have a number of their starting lineup this week. They were without their starting quarterback, so they had to bring in Case Keenum. They were without their 2 starting running backs, so Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. And so, as Dave mentioned earlier, when he signed the Browns offensive line, they brought in a running back, Ernest Johnson, who still ran as if he was Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt for 146 yards and a touchdown. So fair play to him. Well done there. And the Broncos never looked like they were going to get anything going. Unfortunately, the Browns defense was just enough in the end for the Browns to take it. On to the next game that we are going to do a little bit of talking about, because you have to talk about a team that is currently winning every single week, and that is the Houston Texans taking on the Arizona Cardinals. The Houston Texans fell to 1-6 this week, so they've won 1, lost 6, and the Cardinals go to 7-0. That's 7 wins and 0 losses. The Cardinals beat the Texans 31-5, part of our blow up or blowout teams this week. Dave, Cardinals, I know it was the Texans, but are they the real deal?
I think in the NFC they are. Yeah, it's going to be. Well, it's looking like. Well, they're one of the top 3 teams, aren't they? If you look at records wise, you've got them, the Bucks, Cowboys, Packers, and maybe top 4 teams. Well, I mean, they could be the NFC champions. They could be heading to a Super Bowl if the record stays the same. You think back to last year when I think we said last week the Steelers, they were undefeated for like 9 games, but everyone knew it was kind of a phony record. And the Texans win doesn't really impress me. I mean, they were losing after the first quarter, but I mean it was only a safety. But they turned on the pressure. Zach Ertz looked good. They had him on a rush. He nearly rushed for a touchdown, and that he got a receiving touchdown in the end. But Murray's not really making the mistakes. Do you know what he's not doing? He's not really rushing with the ball. I was looking at the quarterback stats for the top 5 rushers for quarterbacks. He's not even in it.
No,
which
he's
is
not
strange
needing to, though, is he?
No, because you people associate him with being able to run the ball. So obviously he can do it, he can escape, but he seems to run round in circles, figure of 8s behind the line of scrimmage, and then just throws a Hail Mary and ends up going to his player, because obviously he's got some great receivers. But yeah, no, he rushed 6 times for 10 yards, which is that's average, isn't it? But if you look at his receivers, 3 receptions to Zach Ertz for 66, 3 to AJ Green 66, 7 to DeAndre Hopkins 53, Christian Kirk 50 yards, Rondell Moore 17 yards, Edmonds 9 yards. So he's spreading the ball about. It's not like if you looked at.
I think that's
No,
sorry, I was going to say. I just think that's. I mean, I'm still not a huge fan, but I think that's why I'm hating him a little bit less, because he seems to be doing less of the stuff that we hated him for before, which is running around like he was in a cartoon, you know, and he's actually playing football. And I can respect somebody who's playing good football. And he had 3 touchdowns, didn't he, this week, or 3 passing touchdowns?
Yeah,
he's putting up numbers.
No, he looks good, and like I say, I definitely this year I hate him less. Do I still think he's a little turd? Yes. But how
Thank
how
God,
at like
so do I.
5'10", he can see over these 6'7", 6'8" guards and tackles he's got in front of him is beyond me. That's why it always looks like he's running around, because I don't think he can see anything. But I mean, the Cardinals are looking great. The Texans are looking abysmal. I think that David Mills or whatever his name is, they've got a quarterback. He's awful. It's the rumor is that they've now traded Deshaun Watson to the Dolphins, but the Dolphins are basically waiting to find out what's happening with his stuff. But apparently that's a done deal. What are the Texans going to do? Because they've literally they've traded away every piece that they had, and they're left with. I mean,
they're in a turmoil.
Yeah, the 53 players on this roster. If you look at the 53 players that start next season, I bet there's 5 of these that are probably still on the same roster because they're awful.
Yeah, for sure. No arguments there. The Texans are the turd of the NFL. Period.
One of the turds.
Cool. Right. So, yeah, one of. We will then go on to look at one of the box scores that really wasn't too exciting, albeit there was a few points in this game. The Indianapolis Colts played the San Francisco 49ers at the Niners. And again, this was another loss at home for the Niners. And again, going into the season, the Niners were pegged as potential, one of the favorites in the NFC West. And it's definitely not coming to fruition. They're having quarterback problems. They're having health issues as normal. And the Colts beat the Niners 30-18. And yeah, the Colts just looked like they did what they needed to do to win. Very, very solid game. 150 yards from Wentz, which is a pretty poor quarterback show, but he had 2 touchdowns. 107 from Jonathan Taylor and a touchdown. They kind of just ran the ball all on the Niners, which is usually what the Niners do to other people. So I'm pretty happy that they got a taste of their own medicine, and it helps the Seahawks a little bit with that loss, because it just means that we're not necessarily going to stay rock bottom of our division. We've got a chance to keep pushing. On to a game that we will talk about, and that's probably for some off-field reasons as well, and that was one of the blowout games that we mentioned earlier, and this was the Chicago Bears taking on the Buccaneers. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers blew out the Bears 38-3. Tom Brady had a Tom Brady-esque game, 211 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 thrown to Mike Evans, who I signed earlier. Leonard Fournette had 81 yards and a touchdown. Chris Godwin had 111 yards and a touchdown. Basically, they were just scoring for fun. And the Bears, Justin Fields got terrorized, didn't he, Dave?
Yeah, there's the meme in there where everyone's saying that the internet's bullied them into starting him, and now he basically did the reverse of Tom Brady: 184 yards and 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I mean, he's a rookie in it, so you can't read too much into it. The team isn't great. The Bears have always been known for their defense as opposed to their offense, but they've got some nice. I mean, they've got Darnell Mooney's pretty nice. Cole Kmet, the tight ends, he's all right. But I don't know. I don't like the Bears. There's just something about them that I don't like.
There's nothing to like, in my opinion. I think that's my
No,
issue, is that they don't have anything that I want to like.
no, and then when they're obviously getting the back end beat clean off them, and then it's like the camera pans to Justin Fields sat on the bench, and he's basically just lay back, head on the thing, like just looking up, thinking, "Oh yeah, the NFL is pretty hard, isn't it? College was easy, the NFL's hard."
Yeah, and this is what it's like to play Tom Brady.
Yeah, get used to it.
Yeah, get used to it. So yeah, I mean, and then also, as I mentioned, off-season antics were Tom Brady in this game threw his 600th passing touchdown. That is a record that no other quarterback holds. I'll be surprised if any other quarterback will ever hold. You never know, but it's a long way to go for somebody. And he threw it to Mike Evans in the end zone, and Mike Evans then proceeded to accidentally go and give the ball to a fan in the crowd. And obviously, memorabilia fans will be going absolutely nuts, because that 600th touchdown pass ball, albeit Tom Brady probably held it for all of 13 seconds, its value went from $25 to about $500,000. That's what they reckon that you'd get for it on the market for some people who collect the memorabilia. And the guy was asked for it back, wasn't he, Dave?
Yeah, and I don't know what they give him. I think Brady's give him some other stuff now, because obviously what they gave, I think they gave him a gift card. I think that's what I was hearing. They gave him a gift card. Basically said he'd go in the shop and spend like £1,000 gift card or something.
Yeah.
There's no way
So
on this.
one of the coaches from the Bucs went and
Yeah,
asked for it back, and said, "We give you £1,000 gift card," and he handed it back, and then only thereafter realised that he'd basically given a house and a car away.
there's no way on this fucking planet they would get that ball from me. Not a chance. Brady would have to come to my birthday party for the next 40 years and just be like,
And
tell
bring
everyone he's,
Giselle.
yeah. And he'd have to friend me on Facebook, friend me on Instagram, have a weekly photo with me. There's no way I'm giving that football back. Not a chance.
I tell you what. I tell you what. The guy actually got. So it was initially £1,000 gift card for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers shop at the stadium. But what he actually eventually got was 2 signed jerseys from Tom Brady, a signed helmet, a signed jersey from Mike Evans game-winning signed cleats. He then also got a singular Bitcoin from Tom Brady worth $63,000 and 2 season tickets for the next 2 years to the Bucs and his
I would
£1,000 gift card.
I would 100% have given the ball back for all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's not bad, is it? I mean,
No,
the ball
that's
could have still been sold for $500,000, but that's what they've ended up giving him after he gave the ball back.
yeah. I mean, the memorabilia would just deck your house out, wouldn't it? And then a $63,000 Bitcoin. I'd take that
Yeah.
straight to the bank, cash
Yeah,
it
it's
in.
not bad, is it? I said I'd take it as well. Like as much as you could walk away with a £500,000 ball, you're going to be that arsehole that never gave the ball back to Tom Brady. You're
Yeah,
not gonna. It's not nice, is it? So like you walk away with about 100 grand's worth of stuff, I'd imagine there or thereabouts.
yeah. And talking about he threw his 600th touchdown, 601 and 602 in that game.
Mm-hmm.
The closest active player that's still obviously still playing that's close to him is Aaron Rodgers. How many do you reckon he's got?
Well, he broke 400 last year, so I reckon he's got about 440.
427 he's got. And
Oh,
this so he's
427.
and he's obviously not playing. He's got probably three more years in him. The closest one after
Yeah,
that is Big Ben. So
and he's done.
yeah. So the three that are left playing. So there's three more people below him. Who do you think they are?
Are they like backups, like Joe
No,
Flacco
no,
or
no,
something
no.
like
They're all
that?
starting quarterbacks. One's injured.
No. Russ Wilson.
Yep. So he's 17th.
Okay.
He's he's thrown 277.
Right. Okay. So Russell Wilson, and then
It's two above him.
probably it's 2 above him. Um, I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
So Matt Ryan's thrown 359,
Ah.
and then
Okay.
Matt Stafford has thrown
Matt Stafford. Okay.
301.
Yeah. So no one's getting there, are they? Let's be
Not
honest.
not a chance. Not I mean
No.
Mahomes has
That's
thrown over 100 and something, like 150. I'd say he's probably got the best shot, and if he plays another 15 years or whatever. But
yeah. Not if he plays like he's playing now.
yeah, that's true.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that was the drama at that game. The Eagles, the Eagles played the Raiders this week. So the Philadelphia Eagles played the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders kept their winning streak or their winning record, and they go to 5-2 and top of the AFC West division. And the Eagles fall to 2-5 in the NFC East. They lost that game 22-33. Good game on the Raiders side of the ball for Derek Carr. And there was not too much else to say about that one, really. Raiders receivers seem to be doing bits for Derek Carr when it's needed. Darren Waller didn't play in this game, which is all the more impressive to say that he got it done. But when you're beating the Eagles, nothing's impressive in my eyes. So that's that. The Jets played the Patriots, as we spoke about in the blowout game earlier. They lost 13-54. Mac Jones had a solid game, 307 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think it's Dante Harris or DeAndre Harris, not too sure. He had 106 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. And the Patriots just steamrolled the Jets. Absolutely nothing good to say about the Jets in that game. They were horrific. And not only that, but their new draft pick, the boy wonder, who's his boy blunder at the moment, actually got injured in that game, and so he's going to miss the next few weeks. He said that he heard a pop in his knee when he got tackled by a very large human landing on him, so he's probably done for a while.
It's the bubble bursting.
One of the games that we'll just yeah, it definitely is the ball bursting. One of the games that we will talk about was a bit of a weird game in that both of these quarterbacks were playing against the teams that they played for just last year, and that was the Lions playing the Rams. So that's Detroit Lions playing the LA Rams. The Lions lost 19-28, and the Lions still the only winless team in the NFL, and Rams go to 6-1. Lions are 0-7. What did you make of this one, Dave? It was a bit of a weird game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't really enjoy watching it that much. It was weird in the fact that the Lions led for like a quarter and a half, and then could have bought it back at the end if Goff hadn't thrown Jared Goff hadn't thrown an interception in the red zone. But it was weird. I mean, the Lions did everything they needed to, every trick play they could possibly think of. They faked a punt. They got an onside kick. They might have. I feel like they did something else. They to keep the Rams off the field. The first two
They had
drives.
two fake punts and an onside kick, and they went for it on fourth a few times. Yeah.
Yeah. So they. I mean, when you've not won a game, I mean, your season's done. Like at 0-7, your season's done.
Yeah.
You try everything you can, can't you? I mean, there's no harm in trying stuff. And like I said to you, I like to see that other teams do it to the Rams, because the Rams have done it no end of time with Johnny Hecker fake punting and throwing the ball over, and it's frustrating to watch because they did it to the Giants last year. It was really annoying. But now, I mean, Matt Stafford's he's proving that the Lions were the ones that were holding him back, because he's absolutely destroying it at the minute. 334 yards, three touchdowns, no interceptions. He had a good game. Cooper Kupp, the most underrated wide receiver, it seems, had another 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's leading the league in receiving yards at the minute. And they just look good. The Rams look solid. I wouldn't like
they
to win
do.
their division.
Cooper Kupp is doing outstanding things. I read somewhere that at the moment he's on pace to be the highest fantasy point rated receiver ever. If he continues what he's doing, he will have more fantasy points for those that are out there that do fantasy than any other wide receiver ever. And the fantasy's been going a long time. We're talking, Antonio Browns, we're talking Megatrons, Calvin Johnson, we're talking any of those players. And this little Amish boy called Cooper Kupp is absolutely rolling on people and putting up numbers. And I don't know what that is. I was thinking, I wonder if it's the fact that he was playing with Jared Goff for so long, who is pretty tank, that he's managed to elevate his own game to such a level that you plug him in with a good quarterback and he's gone like Super Saiyan and turned into this elite receiver because he's had to be so good with a shit quarterback. So, I mean, it could be that, it's like boxing with like weighted gloves on your hands and then taking them off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was not a fantastic game, and I expected the Rams to win more comfortably than they did. Anyway, on to the next one. The Washington football team played the Green Bay Packers. We weren't going to talk about this too much, but there's a couple of things I did want to just talk about in this game. The Washington football team lost 10-24 against the Packers. Aaron Rodgers threw for 274 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tyler Heineke threw for 268 and 1 touchdown. But that's where the drama in the game starts for me. So the Packers won by, a solid 14 points here, but there were some touchdowns taken off the board, Dave? There was a touchdown taken off the board, I think, very, very controversially and unfairly for Tyler Heineke. If you go by the rule book, I understand, but basically Tyler Heineke was rushing to the end zone after faking a pass. He had nobody near him, but he decided to dive forward into the end zone and roll in. As he dove forward, his knee hit the floor before he crossed the line. And the rule book says that is technically classed as a quarterback giving himself up. So essentially, so he doesn't get injured. So that's the rule. If you're not near the touchdown line, if you're to do that, you're giving yourself up, which means players can't tackle you and you're marked as down. But he did that, rolled into the end zone, still untouched, still holding the ball, and they took the touchdown off the board, which would have meant that it would have been 14 points that they had, and they actually then got stopped on the one, which meant they came away from that drive with 0 points. They were then marching down the pitch again, and they got stopped on like the 3 for another 7 points. So technically this game could have been 21-24 very, very easily. But because they had those points pulled back, they had to play very differently, and it just played into the hands of the Giants and in terms of the Packers. I didn't enjoy it, to be honest, as much as, I want to see the Packers struggle, but it's not fair.
No,
I
I
don't think
get
it's
what you're saying.
bad
I
call.
think it definitely plays into the Giants' hands as well, because it puts another loss on the Washington football team, which is good for us. But no, you're right. I was thinking that when we saw that play, it reminded me of there was a play last year where it was a punt, I think, or a kickoff, and he caught it. The player caught it in the end zone without signaling or taking a knee, and he just threw it. Like, so he caught the ball, caught it, threw it to the ref. It hit the ref. The ref left it. A player came, picked it up, and they counted it as a touchdown. And then after they got together, and then they were like, "No, it's a stupid call. Clearly, like common sense. That was a common sense play. They should have just let him. That was a touchdown. Do you know what I mean? Like, if there's nobody
Yeah,
near you and you can clearly see that he's not giving himself up, what's the difference between him doing that and a player doing that when they dive forward into the
yeah,
end zone? There's no difference to me.
yeah.
So, and like I say, I say it all the time, and I'm obviously biased because I watch the Giants constantly. That no team gets flags picked up or not thrown more than bad teams, and the Giants are like
Mm.
suffer with it all the time. We were beating the Bucks last year, and then there was a disgusting pass interference call in the box that they picked the flag up. The Washington football team are the same. They're not a good football team, so they don't get the benefit of the doubt, especially when they're playing a good football team. And
And more importantly, the Packers, because the Packers are on the receiving end of many a friendly flag.
yeah,
Des Bryant being one of the ones that could probably account for the same type of thing, not a flag but a decision. The Packers just always come to see or seem like they fall into an absolute vat of shit and come out smelling like roses. And I don't know how they do it. They've obviously got a great organization, but they seem to have a very, very lucky run of it. So as
yeah.
much as they've got great players,
I don't know if it's just. I don't know if it's the quarterback effect, because Brady obviously gets the same thing, and people used to say it about the Patriots and how the Patriots aren't getting them, but the Bucks are getting them. So maybe it's the fact they've got Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. These kind of, I mean, you can't really, the Saints, definitely the Saints have been seen off so many times, so maybe it's not that.
Yeah, maybe nobody wants to put up with the whinge that Aaron
Yeah,
Rodgers would drop on the stadium if anything went against him. He'd be
yeah,
like, "I don't like this. Make one of my best friends a referee."
yeah. And the Gimp needs to get his hair cut as well.
He does. Anyway, so that was the drama in the Packers game. We'll steamroll through as the Titans did to the Chiefs. The Titans and the Chiefs. The Chiefs obviously got beat 3-27. The Titans. Chiefs fall to 3-4 in the division. They are in a little bit of trouble, and the Titans go to 5-2 in there. So after a shaky start, the Titans are grinding like Derrick Henry. The Ravens beat the Bengals. Sorry, wrong way round. The Bengals beat the Ravens in a game that we covered off earlier. Divisional match. Both teams go to 5-2 in the same division, so that is definitely one to watch as the season unfolds. It was a great game, and like you said, Burrow had a phenomenal game. Lamar Jackson had an okay game, and it just came down to the fact that the Bengals defense just had the right scheme ready to go for the Ravens that day. one other game that we've not covered yet, and then we get to both of our own games, the Seahawks and the Giants, but it was the Falcons playing the Dolphins. So the Atlanta Falcons played the Miami Dolphins. The Falcons just squeaked this one 30-28. Falcons going to a mediocre 3-3 in their division in the South NFC, and the Dolphins falling to 1-6 in the AFC East. And this was not a great game. Both quarterbacks threw for a number of yards. Matt Ryan 336 and 2 touchdowns. Tua threw for 291 and 4 touchdowns. So you can't really say that he didn't do enough. I think he put his team in position to win. And really the talk of the game was that Kyle Pitts had his like proper breakout game, tight end for the Falcons. He looked like the number one pick, or their number one pick that they were waiting for this year, right?
Yeah, I mean it was closer than what it should have been. So the Falcons had the game on tap, and Matt Ryan runs forward to try and get a first down, gets tackled, fumbles the ball off, basically gives it the Dolphins 7 points by just giving them the ball back on the 30-yard line. So it looks tighter than what it was. I think the Falcons handily had them, but like you say, yeah, Kyle Pitts, he's definitely justifying being drafted so high. I mean, 163 yards. Who don't want to see that from your tight end? What I was saying is, imagine if it's still Julio Jones.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they do miss him, but they were playing Pitts in receiver slots at one point.
Yeah, that's right.
As in wide receiver slots, which is nuts.
It's almost like I've been saying they should do that about Evan Ingram for the last 10 years. Well,
at the Giants, yeah, they probably should. He's got the pace. But yeah, the Falcons may just be starting to unlock a few weapons. You know, Cordell Patterson, Kyle Pitts. If they can get them to work, their offense is it's definitely better than how it seemed over the last few weeks. Right, and then on to our own respective games. I'll talk about the Seahawks first, if you don't mind, Dave, and then we can finish on a high as opposed to finishing on a low.
Yeah.
So the Seahawks played Monday Night Football against the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints come into the Seahawks ground, Lumen Field, historically a very tough place to play football, but unfortunately, it's not a tough place to play football when you're playing against a defense like ours and a quarterback like ours and a head coach who is like ours. So it's I was going to be really horrible to Pete, but he's my coach at the moment, so I've got to stick with him. But he's old and he doesn't really know what he's doing anymore. So I would have to say that this game was it was a slugfest, and it was not. If you like football, it wasn't a good football game to watch. The Saints beat the Seahawks 13-10. Yet another devastating loss for the Seahawks was a damaged finger, and then having had to have surgery on it. It was a bit of a game where it was going to come down to a mistake, or it was down to being, and actually really neither happened, to be honest. Both quarterbacks threw for minimal yards. Jameis Winston 200, Geno Smith for 167. Both quarterbacks threw 8 touchdowns. But the difference maker in this was the Saints have got an elite running back so that they can run the ball. The Seahawks don't. So Alvin Kamara went for 128 yards and a touchdown. And basically, he had 30 touches, Dave, in this game. 20 rushing attempts, 10 receptions. I don't know how many times they also tried to throw him the ball, but yeah, he had a lot of touches in this game. DK Metcalf had 2 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown. His touchdown was fantastic, actually, in terms of he was up against Lattimore, who he kind of misjudged the ball, but you don't misjudge against DK because then he's gone. And he scored an early touchdown. I thought, okay, early touchdown, we can get a lead in. We can beat these Saints because they don't look fantastic on offense, but the Saints turned the defense up, stifled our offense. And yet again, we weren't able to do too much. And as I said, it comes down to a number of things. The Seahawks loss, to lose by 3 points, it's worse to me than being blown out, because you think, if only we could do this, we could have won the game. Or if only we'd have had this, we could have won the game. Or if only Pete the Meat would not continually run the ball against a stone wall Saints defense. Like, they are one of, if not arguably, the best running defense in the league. And you choose to run at these fucking monsters of humans with a second string running back and a crap offensive line. And you choose to keep doing it. First down, second down, run. Lose yards. Oh, it's 3rd and 9. Oh, it's 3rd and 12. And then you've got Geno Smith, who, respect to him, but he's shit. He's shit. Like, he's crap. Russell Wilson struggles in our offense because of the play calling. Geno Smith has got no hope in hell. So I genuinely do think that, our team, Bobby Wagner's, he's tackling everything. Jordan Brooks had a good game for us. The second year linebacker, fumble recovery and stuff like that. Well, our team did enough. Holding the Saints to 13 points is enough. Be creative. I think again we're suffering from offensive coordinator woes, Pete or the OC, whoever you want to blame. And our defense is, it's not fantastic. We had a better game this week on defense. That's all. That's the only positive I can take from it, is that we let Alvin Kamara run a little bit of a muck, but we held everything else down. The Saints have been putting yards up here and there. But we just couldn't get it done, and we couldn't get it done at home, and it basically, I think, stops us from having any chance of getting to the playoffs at this point. I think that loss there, if it had been a win, you could say maybe the Seahawks could come back when Russell comes back from injury. We play the Jacksonville Jaguars next week. That's a winnable game. But with Geno and the current mindset, I don't think it's necessarily a winnable game. Like, I still think we could definitely lose that game. Where with Russell Wilson, you'd just be looking at, how many points we're going to put up. That's basically what you'd be thinking, or I would be, against the Jags. So I'm depressed. If I'm honest, like, I'm depressed. Like, I'm in that zone where Russell Wilson's injured. It just shows you his worth. And if the franchise doesn't look at that and say, look at the player that we have, because look at the team that we have without him, what do we need to do to keep him in the house? We need to pay him fucking bucket loads of money, so we will, because another team will. We need to put pieces around him that he enjoys, get him a fucking superstar running back, build an offensive line, not out of new crap shitholes from the draft. Go out and pay people like the Chiefs have done, historically, like what other franchises have done, to protect a good quarterback, and let him be the leader of the franchise. Let him throw the ball. And it's not this, let Russ cook. Play attacking football. Derek Carr's out there leading the league in passing, and Derek Carr is shit. Rant over.
Absolutely love it. No, I think it's difficult, and I think the defense, the reason these like young people are getting these opportunities at coaching is because they bring in new things, new styles, new ways of coaching defense and offense. Because the old goats, they play the same shit year after year, and it's predictable, isn't it? And if Russ is playing the same, not Russ, if Pete the Meat's playing the same defense that he was playing with the Legion of Boom, he ain't got that defense no more.
No.
Maybe it's time to move on, and like with like this is crunch. This is because if you don't get to the playoffs, Russ might be like, you know what, I'm off.
Yeah,
and I'll go win some more Super Bowls. Because the top
I won't blame
five. No.
Yeah. Top 3.
Speaking of top 5 quarterbacks, Daniel Jones.
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah. So my rant's over. We move on to the New York Football Giants. As we discussed earlier, they blew out the Panthers. Dave blew out his pants. And,
yeah, he did.
And the Giants beat the Panthers 25-3. Dave, go on, talk us through it. Gloat away.
Yeah, I'll keep this short because I mean we win so many games. It's getting boring talking about it now. But no, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Seahawks and the Giants later on. So I'll keep this relatively game short. But yeah, no, the defense won the day. It was 5-3 at half. And then the defense just continued to, like, one defense collapsed and one didn't, and as it was the Panthers defense that collapsed. Daniel Jones had a nice steady day coming off the back of probably one of his worst performances in his entire career, which is only 3 years long, but throwing 3 interceptions last week and losing a fumble. He had 4 turnovers anyway. Didn't turn the ball over. Threw for 200 yards, 1 touchdown. Caught a Superman catch from Dante Pettis, probably the best catch of the year.
You look like Odell Beckham Jones.
Yeah, well, he's 6'5", so imagine how hard that would have been to catch for any receiver in the league. Nobody would have caught that, would they?
Yeah.
We got about 100 yards on the ground. Daniel Jones had some great run pass option runs just off the edge. He ran for 28 yards, but they were enough to keep the chain moving. You know, it was Booker had a touchdown, obviously because Saquon's still out, and then we basically got a load of bits and bobs at wide receiver, but we managed to get the job done. Like I say, the Panthers defense didn't come out to play at all, and as did the bad news that we've got is that Jabril Peppers is out for the season. Tore ruptured his ACL, and he's got a high ankle sprain as well. People are saying it's something.
Another injury for the Giants.
Yeah. I mean, we've definitely been beat by the injury curse stick this year, but we got a few sacks. Somebody's that. So Jabril Peppers had a sack. Azeez Ojulari had 2.5 sacks. Dexter Lawrence
That's really
had a
good.
sack. We'll get on to him in a bit. He's looking good. Leonard Williams had a sack and a half. So yeah, we did it well. And then Graham Gano won the NFC Offensive Player of the Month award.
Right.
Week award or month award. Against his
slotting field goals, eh?
Yeah, he's automatic, and he pretty much. Like I say, the Panthers bench Sam Darnold. PJ Walker came on. He's absolutely dog shit. So I don't know why they brought him on. But they just don't look the same team without Christian McCaffrey. The Panthers, they were on a 4-game losing streak now.
Yeah, they've not won for a while. They've lost some close games. I think do you know what this highlights massively, or what I think about straight away when I see this, is the fact that when one of our earlier podcasts, I think it was like week 3 or 4, probably 3. And I think it was week 4 actually, because everyone was like buzzing off the Panthers, being like, Sam Darnold is, he's revitalized in Carolina. They've got these receivers. They were winning games against shocking teams, and it was like, yeah, Panthers, let's go and sign. Help me out here. What's his name for the Patriots? The cornerback.
Oh, Gilmore.
Yes, they go and sign Stefan Gilmore, who is one of the best cornerbacks in the league, thinking that they're going to be some sort of playoff team. How badly do you think he's regretting signing for the Panthers right now?
Oh, 100%. I mean, he's not playing that, is he? But
no, I think he's not available till week 7, but it's not the point. Like, yeah, he will come in and make that team a little bit better, but shit, that guy is not going to be winning football games for a long time, because I think Sam Darnold's, like, whatever it was, the juice that was keeping him going fresh from a new team has well and truly ran out. You don't get benched unless your coach thinks you're shit. And if your coach thinks you're shit, you're in a bad spot.
Yeah, they miss McCaffrey so much, and now I bet they're sat there going, maybe giving him 40 touches a game straight off an ACL surgery, but it probably wasn't a wise idea. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now he's injured or whatever, but it just shows you the value of an electric running back, and what the likes of Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, even Chris Carson. Do you know what I mean?
If he's healthy, it just changes your game, doesn't it?
Yeah. What would the Titans be dog shit without Derrick Henry? Yeah. They've got 2 very good wide receivers, but when you've got no run threat, they'll just mark the defense. You know what I mean? They won't load the box.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Anyway, we won. I'm happy about it. Sucks to be a Seahawks fan.
It does. But yeah, nice one. Congrats to the Giants. Let's see if you can keep it up against the Chiefs this week.
We beat the Chiefs. I'll think of something, but if we beat the
Yeah.
Chiefs.
If we beat the Chiefs, Dave does the entire next podcast with his pants off.
Yeah. Hey, they're off now.
Gross. Don't stand up.
If we beat the Chiefs, you've got to get a Giants tattoo. You got to get an Eli Manning tattoo
I get it tattooed on my arse.
on your neck.
Right. And on that note, we shall move on, and we'll move on to a new segment. It's a one-off segment for us, and me and Dave we were just talking the other day, and we were talking about what players we think are the best players at the moment, and heading towards the award season. Essentially, at the end of every season in the NFL, there are a number of awards given out. So they give out an MVP award, which is the most prestigious award in the NFL, and that stands for most valuable player. They give out an offensive player of the year award, a defensive player of the year award, and then they also give out an offensive rookie of the year. So offensive rookie that's just come out of the NFL draft. They give a defensive rookie of the year, again, first year player out of the draft, and then they also give a coach of the year award. So me and Dave thought that it would be a fun exercise to give our own mid-season awards, and this is just going to be our mid-season awards at the moment, individually, who we think at this point would win or should win or deserves to be winning these awards. So here we go into mid-season awards, and we'll start with the lesser awards. Dave, if you can give your offensive rookie of the year award to me, please, and a quick justification as to why.
I'm going for Jamar Chase. Probably quite it's probably the one that most people would pick. He's probably the most obvious. No, he's not. I think it's an obvious choice though. He's been amazing. He's had some big games where he's got over 150 yards. He's gonna blow. So Justin Jefferson set the record. Was it last year?
Last year, yeah.
Yeah, for rookie receptions, that's going to get blown out of the water. There's no way. The connection that Chase and
Joe
Burrow have got is unbelievable, and I think when it's all said and done at the end of the year, Jamar Chase will be in the conversation for Offensive Player of the Year as well.
Do you reckon?
100%, yeah. If he's leading the league, I think he's second in the league at the minute in receiving yards. If he's leading the league in receiving yards, he's got to be in the conversation, isn't he?
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a really good shout, and like you say, maybe an obvious one, but nothing's obvious at this point in time, and also nothing should be taken for granted. The fact that he's doing those kind of things this early in his career definitely puts him on the right track. So yeah, my offensive rookie of the year, I'm going with Mac Jones.
Okay.
At the New England Patriots. So quarterback and the New England Patriots, Mac Jones, was drafted around the middle of the draft. I think they moved up to either spot 12 or 13 for him. He's not come out and looked like Tom Brady, because let's be honest, who's going to do that? But he has put up a very solid performance in the majority of his games so far. So as a rookie quarterback, you don't really expect some of these stats. So he's played 7 games. He's attempted 247 passes and he's completed 174. That's a 70% completion rate. That's very good for a rookie quarterback. It's very good for a general quarterback, really. 70% completion, anywhere thereabouts, it's going to keep you competitive. He's thrown 9 touchdowns, which is, again, not amazing, but it's still not the worst thing in the world. And he's thrown 6 picks. So as rookies go, if he continues this pace, he's going to finish the league with about 20 touchdowns, 12 picks, 22 touchdowns, 14 picks, something like that, which, again, is not anywhere near offensive player of the year numbers. It's not anywhere near no chances at MVP numbers. But in terms of a rookie doing what he's doing, I think personally he's doing a very good job, because the Patriots offense is not good either. Tom Brady made average people look great. Mac Jones is doing a sterling job at quarterback. His passer rating's 92.8 on the season as well. So yeah, I'd give it Mac Jones at the moment. he deserves a little bit of respect, considering the other quarterbacks around him that were drafted. Zach Wilson is turbo turd. Trevor Lawrence hasn't looked phantasmic. So yeah, Mac Jones for me.
Like it.
Mm-hmm. And your defensive rookie of the year, please, Dave.
I'm going to go with, we spoke about him earlier,
I
is
think
it
I
the
can guess.
Giants? So Aziz Ojulari I'm going to go with. And I know
That's a good
that
call.
I think he's flown under the radar massively, but he's got 5.5 sacks at the minute, which leads all rookies by a long shot.
Yeah.
He's tied with Shaquille Barrett. So these are the people he has more sacks than, yeah, who you would class as elite pass rushers.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Bosa, Jonathan Allen. I can't stop hearing about Max Crosby. Chandler Jones, who had 5 in the first game, has done nothing since.
Mm-hmm.
Von Miller, Brian Burns, Montez Sweat, Yannick Ngakwe, Aaron Donald, Joey Bosa,
Point
Jadavian
proven.
Clowney. You know what I
Point
mean?
proven.
What I'm saying is, for a rookie in a 3-4 defense,
Yeah.
he's killing it. And I love it. Like I say, he got 2.5 sacks in the last game. Before that, it was pretty much a sack a game. You know what I mean? And then did a couple of quiet ones. He started 4 games this year.
Right.
And I just think it's nice to see that we picked him up in the second round. The rest of the players seem to love him. I don't know. It's just nice to have a player that can actually get to the quarterback of the opposing team, which is something we've been lacking. And you cannot win games in this league without people rushing the passer.
No, I agree, and it's exciting to have a pass rusher, isn't it? And I say that from a Seahawk perspective because we have none. But yeah, I think that's great. And to be honest, he crossed my mind with mine, but I thought you'd go there, and it's deservedly so. 5.5 sacks. Pass rushers are the exciting players on the defense. They're the ones that get the credit, and they're the ones that create a little bit of carnage. So fair play. I've gone with, and you won't like this one, and I kind of don't want to pick it, but I feel like he's adapted to the position he's been in. I've gone with Mika Parsons at the Dallas Cowboys. They brought him in as a linebacker, and they've shifted him around. They've played him at linebacker. They've played him at right end or left end, so as a pass rusher, and he can do a little bit of everything, and he seems to often be at the bottom of a pile, even if he doesn't necessarily get a credit for the tackle or that kind of thing. I feel like he's got elite speed, and he's showing it, and the Cowboys defense isn't looking fantastic, but it's definitely looking better than it was last year, and that's probably down to only really 2 individuals. It's him and Trayvon Diggs. So Mika Parsons, I'm going to go with him. I've not got the stats in front of me in terms of how many tackles he's had, but he's an impact player, and he's one that you'd love to have on your offense. He can move side to side as a linebacker, and he can pass rush. So, yeah, begrudgingly, Cowboys, Mika Parsons. I think that might be where it's going.
Yeah, I was just trying to find it there, but I can't actually see how many he's had.
It's all right. We don't need to talk about a Cowboys player for any longer than we need to.
No, he's a piece of shit.
Cool. Then moving on to the slightly more prestigious awards. So, Dave, who do you think is going to win Defensive Player of the Year? So not just of all rookies, but of all players, Defensive Player of the Year.
So again, he's an absolute shitbag Cowboys player, but I've gone for Trayvon Diggs. I didn't want to do it because I do think his stats are very misleading because he's gave up a lot of yards, but you can't argue with the fact that in 7 games he's got 7 interceptions.
It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, and I mean I do think he's a bit of an arsehole. He big times it, but I mean, let me just see if he's got how many touchdowns he's got.
I think he's got 2.
Yeah.
I think he's got 2 touchdowns because they were saying he's got the same amount of touchdowns as his brother, Stefan Diggs, who's a receiver.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean he's having a good season, isn't he? You can't really argue with it. And corners can win it. Stefan Gilmore won it 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
It'd be easy if it was a Myles Garrett, obviously, because he's got the sacks at the minute. But I just think it's more impressive when you pick somebody off than it is when you sack somebody. So I'm going to say Trayvon Diggs.
Nice. I am going with and sticking with who I've been saying from the very start of the season, who I thought was going to win Defensive Player of the Year this year. I'm going with Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns. So edge rusher from the Cleveland Browns. At the moment, he leads the league in sacks with 9.5. He had a quiet week last week, a little bit. He kind of does that, Myles Garrett. He'll have a week where, you know, he makes a few tackles and he makes his presence felt. He maybe doesn't hit the stat sheet, but his presence is always felt. Like there's no way that a specimen like him goes unnoticed. Do you know what I mean? But obviously sacks are the thing that kind of tell you the story of how good a pass rusher is. He's leading the league at the moment. If he continues on this pace, he'll have about 19, 20 sacks, which is nothing to be sniffed at all. And he's a specimen. He can transform that Browns defense on his own. You know, a lot of it runs through him. He's just a powerhouse. He's just like, I mean, I saw him with his shirt off the other day, and I mean, even I started to think, oh, do I like boys? You know, but
whether you like it or not, he would make it if he wanted it to. You'd.
Yeah, I'd have no choice in the matter for sure. But yeah, Myles Garrett's phenomenal, and I feel like he's just, you know, he's been a presence in the league now for 3 years, and he deserves a bit of credit. And if he keeps on this pace, he's probably going to get it.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. And offensive player of the year, then, Dave. Who would you give offensive player of the year? So of all the players in the league, offensively, who's the best player at the moment? Don't say Daniel Jones.
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah. He's. I don't.
Before you carry on, do you mind if I say that Derrick Henry is also my offensive player of the year? So we may as well talk about it together.
Yeah, so he's an animal, and he puts the team on his back week in, week out. They give him 30 odd touches. They're probably destroying his body. They're destroying his body as much as he's destroying everybody who tries to tackle him's body.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna lead the league in rushing.
Yeah, definitely. Without an injury, yeah.
And what was the stat from last week that he's got more yards after contact than every other player in like every like running back or something? He's got some ridiculous stat.
Oh, I didn't see that, but yeah,
yards
makes
after
sense.
carry stat. Or I think he's got more yards after contact than the next 5 people or something like that.
Yeah. He's definitely separated himself from any running back in the league so far, hasn't he? Like there's nobody else to put into the conversation at that position. I think the funny one that you told me the other day was that Nick Chubb, who was second in rushing, was actually closer to being 27th in rushing than he was to being first.
Yeah.
As Derrick Henry. So that's the chasm that is between Derrick Henry and any other running back, which is crazy to think about. But he is a pure beast, and we've absolutely, you know, kissed his arse over the last few episodes, but it's duly deserved because he's just an absolute unit.
He's a phenom.
Yeah. So yeah, we both got Derrick Henry at that position, which is amazing. We agree on something for once, and maybe we agree on the next one. If Derrick Henry is the offensive player of the year, the MVP of this season so far, on 3,
the GOAT.
1, 2, 3,
Daniel
Tom
Jones.
Brady.
Yeah, Tom Brady. It's at the minute I don't think it's close. You could speak Kyler Murray because they're undefeated or whatever, but the things Brady's doing, he threw 200 yards over there, threw 4 touchdown passes. He does what he needs to do. He's not flashy about it anymore. I think the fact that Aaron Rodgers won it last year has maybe spurned him on to think, do you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah.
And I think Kurt Warner in like 2000 was the last person to win MVP of the league and the Super Bowl. So
Okay.
maybe that's what he's thinking about, just to cement. Do you know what I mean?
Break another one.
He's not already the best player that's ever thrown the ball. So
yeah, no, I agree, and like you say, he's still doing clinical things. And I was looking at, like, this week, I was looking at him. They were like 30 points up on the Bears with no chance of losing, and he was screaming at OJ Howard, the tight end, for running a poor route. He ran like he was supposed to be on the hot route, and he basically OJ Howard messed up and was on like a little stop and go, and Brady underthrew him. And Brady was screaming at him, saying like, "You know your route. This is where you're supposed to be." And he was screaming at someone else as well. I think it was, I don't know. I want to say Godwin, but basically they were clearly winning the game, and Brady was still just handing out scoldings to people who weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like, the guy is laser focused and locked in, and like you say, maybe, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, he's just like, nah, I'm not going to leave until everyone knows I'm the best, and I'm going to break every record. I'll pass for 600 touchdowns and all this kind of stuff. And he's just doing it, and he's doing it with ease as well, right? Like, Kyler Murray's running around like a headless twat most of the time, and Brady's just stood in the pocket going, "Yeah, I'll have that touchdown, please. Yeah, I'll have that touchdown, please. Yeah, I'll have that touchdown, please." No stopping him.
No. He's the GOAT.
Pure GOAT. And then finally, there is one more award, and that is the Coach of the Year, Head Coach of the Year. Where are you going with this one, Dave?
I think you'd be surprised. I don't think we're going to have the same one for this.
No?
No. Because I've gone for Zach Taylor at the Bengals.
And guess what I've got written on my paper?
No
Zach
way.
Taylor at the Bengals.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
what do
Taylor
I
at the
know?
Bengals. We're so in sync, Dave. We've been doing this podcast for so long now that we're just basically one huge person.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was dead easy to go with the Cardinals coach because they're undefeated, the same for the MVP. But
yeah, fuck that guy.
I think it's far more impressive what he's done, considering the Bengals are ultimately a turd franchise. They've not really got any winning in them.
No.
So last 2 years, what he's done,
the last 2 years they won 2 games. 2 years ago they won 4 games. I think the year after. This year they've won more games than they have in the last 2 seasons already. And we're halfway through the season. And like you say, yeah, he's done special things with a team that, if you were to talk about the Bengals before this season, you would be thinking, no, they're not great. They'll be bottom of the division more than likely. Burrow's probably still got a ways to go, but they've transformed the defense, signing some. Trey Hendrickson's made his presence felt coming in from the Saints. Is it, who else have they got on the pass rush? Is it Hubbard or something like that?
Yeah.
Who's looking good as well? And like you say, they've bottlenecked Ravens this week. So
yeah, I think everyone was taking the piss, I think, when they drafted Jamar Chase, which means to me that they're listening to what the quarterback wants, a young quarterback. And they were taking the piss, saying that they should have drafted an offensive lineman to help protect the quarterback. It doesn't seem like they need to at the minute.
No, definitely not. Well, I'm glad that we align on that one. And if the Bengals coach continues to do what he's done, he's definitely got to be on the conversation, right? Okay, right. Well, that is the end of our mid-season awards, and we're now going to look into real quick the inside scoop. So we're going to talk about our own teams for the next couple of minutes around what our expectations are for the rest of the season, where we think we're going wrong or going right, and how the Seahawks from Seattle and the Giants from New York are going to fare over the next few games. So the inside scoop coming straight to you from Big Dave. Talk to us about your Giants, Dave.
So I think at the start of the season, I made a very, very bold prediction that we were going to win 10 games. We are not going to win 10 games. I didn't have us getting off to a 2-5 start. Let's say that. Let me just bring up the rest of the games. So I've got us essentially winning 5 of the next 10 games.
Okay. And what would that put you on record wise? 7.
So I think we'll finish 7 and 10.
Okay.
The defense hasn't been anywhere near what it should have been, apart from the last game. So what I would like to see is the defense continuing to get better. And I think one of the big questions before the start of the season was whether Daniel Jones is going to be the franchise going forward. And at the minute, I can categorically say that they're going to pay him some money at the end of the season. And he'll be around for a while, I think, because he's definitely not the problem. He's had one stinker game, but everyone has stinker games. Mahomes had stinker games this season.
Mm-hmm.
And Rodgers at the Saints at the start of the season had a stinker. It happens.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm hopeful that we can get to 7 wins. 7 wins ultimately won't get us into the playoffs, I don't think. I mean, there's no way 7 wins getting into the playoffs. So, especially with the way the Cowboys are playing, because 7 wins might have won you the NFC East last year. Well, it would have done. But not this year. I think the Cowboys are going to win 12, 13 games, I reckon, by the look of it. No one seems to be slowing them down. Short of an
Then you've got
injury
the wild
or two.
card, haven't you? Of which would be given to teams that are probably going to finish somewhere around like 10 or 11.
They'll all finish positive. Yeah, I mean, you could, in theory, 3 teams from your division could go. It's again, so it's I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to harp on too much about it. I feel like I've talked the Giants a lot today, but I'd like to see us get healthy, so get the players back, the defense step up, and let's just see what happens.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's cool. And if I'm honest, I feel like I've I've gone in on the Seahawks today, or maybe not necessarily on the Seahawks. I've gone in on the coaching, so I can talk about the players real quick. So the Seattle Seahawks at the moment we're sat with we've got 2 wins at the moment, and that's not good. We're going to play Jacksonville this week, and so here's my take on it. I feel like our season specifically comes down to this week. So I think that depending on how we do at Jacksonville will pretty much depend or hold in the hands the rest of our season, because if we can beat Jacksonville this week, we've got 3 wins. We then have a bye week where our players can get healthy. We then play Green Bay. We will lose. So that's going to happen. We then play winnable games. So historically, we've beat the Cardinals quite regularly, even with Kyler Murray. And they do look like a different team now this year. But I have every faith that a divisional game, they're not the same. So we could beat the Cardinals. We then play Washington football team. We could beat the Washington football team. We then play the 49ers. We could beat the 49ers and often do. We then play the Houston Texans. We will beat the Houston Texans. We then play the Rams. We were close, even without Russ. We could beat the Rams. We then play the Bears. We can absolutely beat the Bears. We then play Detroit. We can definitely beat Detroit. And then we'll then play Arizona away. And so, okay, we may lose that game. That's 7 wins on top of the 3 we'd have. That takes us to 10 wins. That is a potential playoff berth at that point. And I know that that's dependent on how other teams do. But a 10 win in a 17 game season is a potential wildcard berth. I'm not saying that I even necessarily think we'd survive 30 seconds in the playoffs, but it's something to get excited about. It's if your team makes the playoffs, it's something to hopefully enjoy. Russell Wilson has another playoff run. It's something to keep him happy. So that's what I'm hoping for. But I think the linchpin is the Jacksonville game, and if we can't win that, I think we realign what we're hoping to achieve this year in its entirety. We haven't really got any picks to worry about either. So it's a case of building on things and changing the playbook a little bit and seeing what Russ can do. If you give him some, ask him what he wants. That's where I'd be at that point and be like, right, what do you want, Russ? What do you need to get us back on track? Because what we're deciding to do is not working. We have got pieces: Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Bobby Wagner. Not many years left in Bobby either. He's coming towards the end of his career. We need to optimize. Jamal Adams on his day, is an impact player, not necessarily a great safety, but an impact player. We've got other pieces within our team as well, young up and coming pieces that can be developed. There's a lot to get excited about, but not if you're playing the way we're playing. And ultimately, as I've already ranted about in this episode, Pete the Meat needs to go now. He needs to just totter off with his walking stick, chewing his gum into the sunset and be like, peace, Seattle. I've won you a Super Bowl. I've lost you a Super Bowl. I'm out. And that be that. And just hand the reins over to somebody who, you know, can still control their own bowels.
Yeah. Well, I think
We'll see.
it's a sorry state of affairs if you can't beat the Jags. So
Exactly. So that's where we're at, and we'll now move quickly on to our final segment, which is our Sky Sports previews. So, Dave, games on Sky Sports this week for our UK British listeners. If they're not too familiar with football, they want to watch some football games on Sky Sports, these are the games we've got for them. Tell us what's the main thing to look out to see in these games. Green Bay Packers playing the Arizona Cardinals. That's the first one, and that's playing tomorrow night.
I think Devontae Adams is questionable for the game because of COVID protocols. Alan Lazard's definitely not playing. So Rodgers is going to be throwing to God knows who if they're not playing. It's going to be worrisome for them because they're on a roll at the minute. They've won the last 5 games, 6 games,
Yep.
6 games. They won the last 6 games. So yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, JJ Watt's out for the Cardinals, so.
Right. Okay. I mean, yeah, if you're not throwing to Devontae or Lazard, who are you throwing to in that offense? And the Cardinals, having not lost a game yet, are not the team that you want to take on in that, because you're probably going into some sort of a shootout.
Yep.
Cool. The next game that we're going to be watching is the Tennessee Titans against the Indianapolis Colts. Strong running game from both of these teams. So if you're into your physical football, you want to see a lot of big hits, solid runs, not necessarily too many points, although you never know. The Tennessee Titans take on the Colts, and I think you can't underestimate the Titans now after the stretch of wins they've had over the last few weeks, right?
Yeah, who won the last one? That's the divisional game, isn't it?
It is a divisional game, and I'm not sure actually.
Yeah, but well, I mean, yeah, you're right. It's a physical running game. You've got Jonathan Taylor against Derrick Henry. It's pretty much the matchup there with 2 quarterbacks that are B kind of B plus
B
quarterbacks.
minus.
Yeah, no, B plus is a bit generous, isn't it?
Yeah. Cool.
Average.
And yeah, definitely Carson Wentz is average. The next game is the Patriots at the LA Chargers. So the Chargers coming off a bye and coming off a very tough loss to the Ravens, will be looking to get back on track against the New England Patriots. And the Patriots also will be looking to ride the wave of their 50-point win. And I think that leads to a potentially relatively exciting game. I think the Chargers take this one, but the Patriots will give them a game of it, I think.
Yeah, the only concern I've got is if Justin Herbert's, because the Chargers have got that quick score ability, and the Patriots haven't got that. The Patriots are a dink and dunk team. Mac Jones, I think, has only thrown thrown 1 pass over like 20 yards or something, or 30 yards, and that was in the last game.
Yeah.
So, or 1 passing touchdown maybe over 30 yards.